Um, Welcome everybody. So here we are. We're excited to record our demo day, AI for Good, our June demo day. We call this the Nonprofits in the Wild, Nonprofit AI in the Wild. Just real tools, looking at nonprofits doing real things with AI captured in their natural habitat. So this is the Big Brothers Big Sisters edition. We got Marco Ramos here. Excited to have him present. This is going to be recorded and shared. So for those of you on the call, this is going to be recorded, but we're excited to talk about what's happening in AI with nonprofits. Of course, today is Juneteenth, so happy Juneteenth. Just wanted to recognize that. We do have, this whole thing we're building with AI for Good is bringing together nonprofits and community leaders and builders to explore how AI can strengthen the nonprofit organizations, expand their impact, and solve real community challenges. It's a pretty meaningful community. It's new, Sacramento based here, of course, and we're doing a lot of getting together socially, connecting, sharing ideas, also training. We just finished our AI 201 this week with 55 nonprofit leaders in a room learning about AI and workflows and agents. And then, of course, we have our AI 301 coming up in July. So keep an eye out for that. Registration's open for our AI 301. And then looking into August, we're doing our AI for Good hackathon, which is going to be pretty exciting. So, all right. So, and then, of course, Monday, we start we're calling it the AI Show and Tell virtual mixer series. So, for those of you that are interested, this is super informal. Literally, just let's join a Zoom and share what you're doing with AI. Listen in, just learn if you'd like, be a fly on the wall and listen. Or if you have something cool to share, bring it. 30 minutes, good way to start the Monday. Maybe you'll pick up one cool tip or trick that you can use in your week. So starting Monday, this Monday, 22nd. So you can sign up online. And of course, so this is vibe coding. So for those of you that haven't heard that word, vibe coding. And this is what we did in our first hackathon back in March. We built 5 apps for 5 nonprofits. It's 48-hour hackathon. Big Brothers Big Sisters was one of those. So that's what we get to hear today from Marco. He's going to share about that. This is the tool that we're using. It's called Replit. And then Replit is built on top of Claude Code, which is one of the frontier models that you've probably heard about, Anthropic's platform. So when you use Replit, it's sort of a self-contained platform that has the an interface that looks like a ChatGPT Claude type environment, but it also has the database, the authentication, everything kind of baked in. So effectively, you're chatting, prompting to build an app, and you build it, make changes to it through the chat interface, and then you click publish, and it goes out into the internet and it becomes available to the world. That's basically how it works. And so Marco is going to show us that part of it too. And what's cool about this is we built this app for Big Brothers Big Sisters, just like a V1 MVP version of the app. And Marco. I don't think you'd ever heard about vibe coding, right? Before this, this is like a new frontier for you, right? And
Yeah.
so kind of cool. And now he's taken that concept with Replit and has been able to add all sorts of new features to the app that was built for Big Brothers Big Sisters. So we're gonna just get a little tour of what they built. So Marco, welcome.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here and talk a little bit about what we've been working on at Big Brothers Big Sisters. I'll just go ahead and share my screen. All righty.
Perfect. Yeah. So what we can see here, this is what your inside is Replit, and then this is like the published version here.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, a few months ago when we joined the hackathon, we went into it thinking this is going to be an amazing opportunity to connect our big community to one another, to make it less elusive, to help folks feel more connected with one another in this growing digital era. And when we first got our hands on it, an idea really it was within me, and I thought, okay, what can we do? We have all these little minute issues in the organization, uh, specifically surrounding the enrollment process. We're losing a lot of folks that are wanting to engage with us. They have that spirit to volunteer. How can we get them through this as quickly as possible? So I started playing around with Replit, and I was like, all right, what is this? What's going on? I've dabbled with coding. I've casually just building websites, doing little fun things for friends and family and myself. Even played around with some app building in the past, and then I saw this, and I was like, wow! So this can do everything I do, but a million times, well, faster, a million times faster, right? So something that would take me maybe a month, this can ram it out in a week, if not a day, and if not an hour. And
Yeah.
so it's incredibly impressive. Uh, but before we get into the exact Replit process, let's go through some of the tools that we're creating and why we're creating them here at Big Brothers Big Sisters. So when folks are first applying to our program, they're met with a lot to say the least of different things they have to do, from an orientation, the application, and a lot more. We'll dive into that in a second here. Uh, but what we decided to do at Big Brothers Big Sisters is, all right, let's give them a one-stop shop. Let's build this on top of the community and give them access to that said community after they've completed these enrollment tasks, as well as been matched with their little. Uh, so we go into this program. So I'll show you exactly how we log in. This is going to be the link on our website as well as our nationals. We register here. You just click, hey, I'm a volunteer. Or, hey, I'd like to enroll my child into this program. Awesome. So you go through that pretty simple, straightforward process. Uh, but we'll go ahead and show you the more refined version of it now. Uh, so you load in, you have access to all of these tools immediately, which is awesome. If you have any sort of quick questions like, hey, what's going on? Like, what's the timeline like? What should I expect? We created this little bot here to simulate the role of a match support specialist here within the org. So if you have an immediate, simple question, all right, just throw it out there, and it'll help you resolve those issues pretty seamlessly there. Uh, and as an example, I made a test template here as well, what it would look like unlocked once you're enrolled. So you have that application here. You have those additional requirements with an explicit set of instructions. And as you can see, this can get a little tedious. They have to not only do the orientation, not only the application, but we have a live scan, national training, as well as mandated reporter training. So before this, we were having folks, kind of sporadically reach out. Okay, here's the orientation, and then they have to wait for the specialist to get back to them. Here's the application. Here are the next steps. No, and that would ultimately take up a lot of staffing time. So this is going to be an opportunity, and we're anticipating at least a reduction of 40% staff time, reaching out to folks, reminding them, and we'll get into the nitty gritty details as well regarding how we're doing so from the admin perspective shortly. Another way we're utilizing this is by just having our options here for scheduling. So, hey, you want to book an interview once you've completed all these other steps. Awesome. Here's all of our availability, not just with one person, which was the standard before, but now you have an array of the three folks that are handling these
That's
tasks.
great. So I'm a volunteer. I can now come to this app, fill out the form, get into this process, and sort of like a self-paced walkthrough of all the things I need to do. And you're saying before, prior to this, or even before the app was in place, that was a pretty manual process with a lot of email and phone calls and back and forth.
Oh yeah, and it would take a tremendous amount of time. And so I've heard. I've been with the organization for a few months now, and some of the stories I've heard and the backlog, and this is our attempt at reducing said backlog and creating a somewhat frictionless environment for the volunteers and potentially interested parents or guardians. So let's give an example of what it would look like once they're matched. So once they're matched, they have, this is someone who's on paper been with us for 730 days. It would give them their information on who they're matched with. Um, we've also realized that folks need an incentive to complete our surveys, to stay on top of the various requirements that Big Brothers Big Sisters has. So now we've implemented this sort of incentive. We have all these awesome opportunities that pop up all the time. Lots of folks are donating events or various fun activities. So in order to access those set activities, you have to have both the parent and the big meet the standard of criteria. And there's a little nudge option here. So hey, like
Nice.
you parent hasn't done it. Sorry about that. You got to nudge them, and the parent has the flexibility of deciding what method of contact, whether text message or email. In this instance, it's email, so it would get sent directly to them.
So when you
And
got like a
oh,
Kings
good.
tickets before, so your Kings would call and say, "Hey, we've got two tickets to the game tomorrow night." What was your process before, and now what is it now?
Yeah. So before it was, hey, senior match specialist reaches out to everyone via email, just email blasts all of them, and oftentimes, it's just first come first serve. Whoever happens to have that email now, it's hey, we just implement it into here, and it sends out those reminders steadily, like hey, like we have this event coming up in the next few days, and it sends it out periodically just to remind folks, and it keeps track of who we're sending it to as well.
That's cool. So they can come in here and claim them, claim the tickets without having to go back and forth with, "Hey, are they still available?" We've all had to do
Yeah.
that. So just reducing some staff time, right? And just that back and forth process by putting it online.
Absolutely. And we were talking about this briefly earlier regarding the Bigs community. And once they're matched, of course, they have a direct access to this. And the idea is, hey, like let's share a story. Let's talk about what's going on. Let me ask a question. Let's shout out my little. Let's shout out the big who's matched with my child. And it's also going to open up some other opportunities too. We have the way we look at this in Big Brothers Big Sisters is this is a living, breathing tool that we're going to continue to adapt to the various changes and needs of the organization.
That's great.
Yeah, lots of little things here and there, but the most important thing and what we really wanted to focus on here is making sure that hey, we have everyone matched, we have access to all of this information readily available to us, and it's pretty seamless. Back before I had access to this tool, it was all right, Marco. Let's see what this task is. Let's get ready. Let's set aside all of this time. Now it's pretty simple, and I'm going to show you guys an example of a change as well as my process and how I go through set changes. So in the past, let's see. So step one, identify the issue, see what do I want to change to this application, to this tool, to this app. Uh, so I sat down, I go through our portal option here, and I'm just thinking, okay, I identify a change. I just write down some general thoughts, like this is a raw example of something that I implemented into Gemini, which is my choice of an LLM, just because it works with my interface. So I talk to it, and then it provides me with an example of some of the things that we can put into it. So it gives it to me in plain text. I'm like, okay, this works. I make any changes if necessary. In this instance, no changes were necessary. I was highly satisfied with this product. Then I come here and I'm like, hey, Replit, let's make these changes. Please execute this. And
So you
you
just
know,
copy paste your prompt into the system.
yeah, exactly that. And after I've started running it, then it just starts going through the process and inputting its changes. We have the option to preview said changes before implementing them. And it worked for 3 minutes and cost me 78 cents to make this change. Whereas it would have taken me X amount of time, maybe a week to do this, because this
Mhm.
was a pretty hefty task. We're looking at some text cleanup. We're looking at some major changes, at least in my perspective, with the code itself. So instead of having to go code line by code line, just talk to it, prompt it, and you're good to go. I also came prepared with an example of a change that I'd like to make as well, just so that you can see a live demonstration of what that would look like.
Great.
So Let's see here. Go back here. And personal preference, just because I use Gemini, I like having these little notebooks with all of the history of the changes I've made. So I have it all in one neat place. So let's see. So when we go to the admin view, I'm noticing, hey, we have an active big section, but we don't have an active match section. So let's write something in for that.
Nice. So you're basically using a another LLM like Gemini or Claude or ChatGPT. You're putting your prompt in to then expand that prompt to a little more robust, more detail, and then putting
Yeah,
that into
exactly.
Replit. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I tell it, hey, like I identified my issue or like the thing I'd like to make a change to. I'm talking to a separate AI assistant here,
hmm
which I've given information regarding Replit in the past. But generally
hmm
speaking, you let it know, hey, I'm using Replit. It's smart enough to identify, okay, let's make these sorts of commands to it.
Yeah.
So I then just copy that information over. I head over back to Replit and we paste it in, and then we watch it go to work.
Just like that.
Just like that, super seamless, super easy to do, low barrier to entry. I've spent I've spent quite a bit of time learning all the ins and outs of coding, and now it's like, oh wow, like it's helpful to have the background, but you don't need it anymore. Just
No.
talk to it. Yeah, talk to this to Replit or similar operating system, and it'll understand what's going on. Oh, we have a question.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Go ahead,
Hi.
Margaret.
Marco, thanks for this demonstration. I know just enough of technology to be dangerous and ask crazy questions. So, how do you know when you're putting in this prompt to not impact other parts of Replit or the form or anything you have along those lines? How? Just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
how does that work?
So I can speak to my experience. I'm sure Brad
Okay,
has expert experience as well. He
that would be
uses
great.
this. He's a pro. But in my experience, uh, sometimes that does happen. Full
Okay.
transparency, which is why there's a preview view to see, hey, if there are any issues popping up, you don't have to implement the changes onto the main tab,
Mm,
the main version. But assuming that there are any issues, you can just go back and rework that prompt. Or if you're more of a, let's say, forceful or more of a power user, and you're like, hey, I'm just going to work through these changes, just
mm,
build off of that and see what's going on. Another helpful piece of information is I like having my shell open here, which is one of the, when you go to the plus sign here and you have all these different tools that you can apply. So this is just direct access to this interface. And there's a few commands you can put in here. The one that refreshes things just to make sure it's not a basic bug. Just it's called kill space one, and it
mm.
resets the application just to make sure it's not something minuscule. It's not something super small that you need to go back towards.
Well, I'll
But
show
Brett,
you something. If you go down in where it says economy down at the bottom in the prompt box on the left side.
economy. Oh, right here. Yeah.
So here it says app testing.
Hmm.
So Replit's actually has built-in testing out of the box, which is really cool. So it actually will go through and click through your app and make sure that it's all working properly after you make a change. And you can turn that on or off. It uses more tokens, but it
Sure.
works. I've built over 50 apps now using this stuff, and it's I don't think I've had one time where I've had it go and break something that I didn't expect. Obviously, if I'm working in
Hmm.
one area, I go
Right.
through and test that part myself, but something way off, way distant from that area, it hasn't really messed it up. Um, and the other thing too is once it's done, it'll give you a summary of everything that it did, and
Okay.
then you can go through
Okay.
that and do a quick audit if needed. So it's both your own testing, built-in testing, and looking at the change log to see what it did.
Right,
That's a
because
good
my
question.
understanding from not ever doing coding, but working in technology with engineers is like you can make a change here, right?
Uh,
And have it changed somewhere in the
Yeah.
back end, or you won't even know it wasn't something in the front end until you're testing or it's out in the public interface, and then you see something was broken. And I was just
Right.
wondering, I'm like, how does that work when you're creating the prompt in one system in the
Yeah.
LLM and then trying to copy it over? So
Yeah.
it may be something I don't have to worry about, but it was just one of those things where it's just like, how does that work?
I would say
But
that, but
okay,
I
thank
would
you.
treat it like if a human made the change, what would be your process
Sure.
to follow
Yeah,
up and
you test
verify?
it.
It's
Yeah.
going to be the same basic idea. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good question though.
Yeah, great question. And on the topic of tests, as we can see, it's run 236 tests just to make sure that it's all working.
You want to show the database tab, Marco? Like that's kind of interesting up where the plus where you had the shell.
Yeah, yeah.
The databases tab's interesting just for those that are intrigued by this, but this is where you can actually see the behind the scenes tables structure, like the tables and fields. You can click on one of those and go in. Um, and so that's all the data, right? So you have access to see the raw data if you need, and then you have a preview tab within that view. And then once you're done with this, how do you publish it? Maybe just show us like high level. Well, if you wanted to push this out.
Yeah, yeah. So we have the republish option right over here. So, oh, nice. It just finished up.
Oh, there you go. Cost you $1.
Now, $1.04 to implement that change. It's not bad.
Yeah.
So we would go ahead and just go over to publishing and we would publish said changes.
And
And it runs
where does it publish it to?
to the site itself. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
leading you in that way.
Yeah.
So that's where it goes, right? That's the published link for the app.
Yeah. And the really neat thing about this is that it also is running steady security scans to make sure that nothing's broken. It lets us know if something needs work. Of course, there's always going to be a minor thing, some minor maintenance, ideally monthly or maybe bi-weekly, just to check in to make sure there aren't any bugs operating there. But usually that's like a 30 cent charge, I've noticed, just to make sure that the debugging process is handled routinely.
Yep. Yep. That's great.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, very good. Well, was there anything else you wanted to show us, Marco? Or is there anything else in the app that was?
So right now, because it's publishing it, I can't show. I was a little too eager to publish it and show the example.
Oh, sure.
But but in a nutshell, we're really just excited and optimistic about continuing to add things to this and add separate initiatives to streamline processes and make sure that we're being as efficient as possible, taking full advantage of these various tools. So we don't have to spend a week coding something. We don't have to outsource or spend additional funds internally to continue to improve and to grow as an organization.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it's a great example of technology to streamline a process and create a better experience for the volunteers. Again, going from a very disparate paper-based process or email-based process with a lot of different moving parts to a centralized dashboard with step-by-step walkthroughs and guides on how to get involved as a volunteer. And by the way, Big Brothers Big Sisters, great program plug. If you're interested in being a big, I'm sure they would love to have more volunteers get involved in the lives of youth that could use some mentorship. So maybe if there's any other questions, we have a minute. Otherwise, we could just call it good. Anybody have any lingering questions or comments?
I have another question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
Marco, so excuse me. So Replit is where you guys were putting the testing and all the changes. What I'm trying to ask was your previous website on Replit before or housed? Oh, so it already was. Like, how is that making sense? What I'm asking?
Yeah, I think it's making sense. It's all through Replit. So you make your
Okay,
account, and then you can make those changes there and publish it through
right,
Replit itself.
right. So, Brad, have you seen where maybe an organization isn't using Replit to do something, and how do they move things over? Like if we have Salesforce as our
Yeah.
CRM, and that's what
Hmm.
we have a link that goes in, and everyone does their volunteer information and goes from there. So if it's not on Replit, how does that, would we just have to integrate it or add it
Well,
or push the link or,
it
yeah,
depends what you're trying to create.
right.
There's the data and then there's the web element. Those are sort of two
Yep.
different things. So if your
Yep.
data is all in Salesforce,
Mm-hmm.
there is a way to connect to Salesforce through Replit. So you can actually just
Okay.
tell Replit, I want to connect to my Salesforce instance.
Okay.
And if you don't know how to do it, just say, hey, Replit, I don't know how to do that. And it'll just walk you through it.
Right.
There is a requirement though to like have the right API keys and just some others. It's a little more technical than a basic app, but
Yep.
it's possible.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
it's doable. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm bringing this up just as an
Oh, cool. Look at
example.
you.
We
Nice.
we we've been thinking about integrating Salesforce or our Matchforce
Mm.
directly into Replit so that we could, uh, have those direct
Yeah.
matches pulled from
Mm-hmm.
there. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, there are additional safety concerns attached with that, particularly for our organization because we do work with children. So it's
Right.
something that we're still weighing the pros and cons of, seeing if we can get away without using it. But we've set a foundation so that
Mm.
once we do make a decision, we have that information there.
I love this. Yeah, so to basically build what Marco's showing, you would go into Replit and say, I want to build a Salesforce integration with Matchforce. Build me
Mm-hmm.
a back-end system to do that.
Mm.
And then obviously you can see it. We would crank this out and you'd have to fill this all in with your credentials.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And something that I didn't realize Replit could do is send out automated emails,
Sure.
automated messages, things like that. So we're able to take a look at, what are some of our email logs here, email reminders. So
Very
I
nice.
have a large array of templates for a lot of different examples of folks
Amazing.
going through our program. We can go in there, edit them manually, and just go from there.
Wow, that's pretty cool. But yeah,
Mm.
but Margaret, you're asking about hosting too. So Replit is just a
Right.
tool online, and then
Yeah.
you can, when you go to publish, you can publish to obviously like a Replit.app website. So it's,
Okay.
Big Brothers Big Sisters.replit.app would be like the domain, or
Okay.
you can hook it to a subdomain through DNS, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's all doable. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the apps I build, like for SVP, we have
Mm-hmm.
app.svpsacramento.org and crm dot, and fp dot. We have like 10 of these. Uh, and they're all hosted on Replit, but
Okay.
pointed via subdomain to Replit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it would be the Replit to
And
the
and
subdomain.
Replit
Yeah.
itself is $20 a month. Um, we don't get any credit from Replit, by the way. We're not sponsored by Replit, although we'd love to be. If Replit's watching this, feel free to sponsor this commercial.
You'll
But
have to put this out on YouTube for them to see.
but it's only $20 a month, so it's very low
Right.
cost. Now, I will say, when you're doing the building part, you will start adding up quickly. Like when you're building an app from scratch, you're probably looking at a few $100s, possibly.
Okay. Okay.
But if you do the math on like what, if the app you're going to build is, let's call it $300 and it's massively impactful to your organization, it's kind of a no-brainer.
Right.
But you
Agreed.
need to know that. Now, for like the ongoing costs, you're talking about very minimal. I mean, it's dollars, a few dollars a month kind of thing within your $20 credit. So likely you would
Right.
go over the $20 a month to host. So the ongoing cost ends up being about $20 a month.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add a little bit more information there. Just two examples. So, uh, let's say you hired a website creator, a web developer. You're looking at for just a complex website, if they're
Yeah,
doing it all themselves, like at least $1,000, right? And then
Right.
you have to
Right.
pay them
easy.
for like $500 for a few months just to take care of it for you and make those changes for you. And it's all in all so much easier just to go through an application like Replit to make these changes. You can do it internally. You can maybe train an employee within the organization as well to
Right.
maybe have a stronger background in cybersecurity, things like that.
Well, and
Mm-hmm.
Mike, I love what you said about it being a living app too, because we all know
Mm.
that our businesses change. And so the hard part about packaged software is it's static. You can't change it. If you don't like it, you just have to change your process or build a spreadsheet to offset that or another integration. Well, with this, you can change it. You go in and just vibe code a change and your app is your own. And that's a beautiful thing. Gives you a lot of power to be able to really control your data and control your processes. So it's pretty cool. Pretty good stuff. So, all right. Well, anything else? We're good. Awesome. Well,
Cool.
Marco, thank you for taking the time. I love the story of having built this fairly basic app at the hackathon. You went, wow, this is cool. And now you've added so many features to the Big Brothers Big Sisters app. That whole volunteer process. They're lucky to have you. Thanks for all the hard work and thanks for being on the call. So, all of you have a great weekend and we'll chat soon.
Take it easy.
Bye bye.